Flushing the toilet at least 4 or 5 times a day, according to Taiwan water statistics, leads to domestic daily household water consumption per person of about 276 liters. Some 27% is toilet water, or the equivalent of one person using 74.5 liters per day, simply going down the toilet. In this area, Hong Kong people seem to think this practice is too wasteful.
Turning this on, this is seawater tap, which is a little yellow. You have to scrub the toilet every morning and afternoon, as there will be a little sediment. They say that fresh water doesn't have this problem.
The bottom of the toilet will be yellowish because the water source for flushing the toilet is seawater. Ms. Xu moved from China's Quanzhou to Hong Kong 25 years ago. She used fresh water to flush the toilet in her hometown, but her habit now is totally different.
I didn't know this at the beginning. It's only after I heard people tell me that we have 2 different water towers on the roof, one for seawater and fresh water.
In the building where Ms. Xu lives, there are 2 water lines, one for seawater and one for fresh water. The pipelines are fresh water for drinking, general washing, etc., while seawater is mainly used for flushing toilets. Because it contains salt, plastic pipes must be used.
In the early days, there was a real problem with corrosion, but now we basically use PVC or HDPE, which is small plastic tubing. Anything smaller than 150 millimeters, we usually use plastic.
Joseph Lee has served as the vice president of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology and is a well-known expert in water uses. For decades, he has participated in planning water facilities used in Hong Kong and helped introduce seawater flushing. This world-leading technology saves 270 million cubic meters of fresh water every year.
In the early days, you had to go to the street to draw water, and when it was insufficient, you would go to the ocean and use seawater, which can be used to flush the toilet. When you do this, you can now save 28% of fresh water. This is a very significant figure.
In the 1950s, Hong Kong lacked water resources, making it too extravagant to use precious fresh water to flush the toilet. So the Hong Kong government began to flush the toilet with seawater. In 1957, a test pilot version was tried at Kowloon's Shek Kip Mei Estate, a densely populated area. The test was later expanded to the eastern part of Hong Kong Island. In 1965, more legislation was passed for new construction, and large buildings must install seawater flushing pipelines. This is part of the wastewater history of Hong Kong. The seawater flushing system begins with a pumping station along the coast, which later filters the water and either uses chlorine or bleach to disinfect. At present, 80% of the buildings in Hong Kong have this system, and there is no charge. However, there are still a few areas where they still use fresh water to flush toilets. Miss Lee's family, located in the Wan Chai district, Hong Kong Island. The apartment is more than 60 years old, and since the beginning, only fresh water can be used.
I think that because the water tank is in a remote place, the government didn't know about it or had no plan for this area. I am not sure.
Although there is no seawater for flushing, Miss Lee does not feel her life is inconvenient. At least she has fresh tap water for her daily life. Hong Kong has relatively cheap water fees, as this family of 3 pays just $8 every 4 months. Residents in the building even asked the government to lay a seawater pipeline, but were rejected by the Water Bureau.
Because there are costs involved, we will ask again.
要費用咯，所以佢哋都冇去諗呢個問題。
The government felt it is too expensive to put in or upgrade a pipeline. This means the residents have no way to use this seawater.
It is not difficult to obtain seawater throughout Hong Kong. However, seawater flushing isn't completely accepted as those in the mountains and outlying islands still use fresh water for flushing.
About 10% still don't have salt water for flushing because they are far from the coast in either the central or the northern part of Hong Kong. They still use fresh water to flush the toilet.
According to the statistics from the Water Bureau, fresh water for flushing consumes 82 million cubic meters per year. Moreover, water subsidized by the government of Hong Kong each year as it spends $38 million a year to purchase water, with much of it coming from China in the form of Dongjiang water. Many believe too much is wasted by flushing it down the toilet.
Some small villages are developing pipelines themselves. In fact, the government is fully capable of developing more saltwater pipelines so that our residents can use seawater to flush toilets.
Current technology cannot overcome geographic limitations, as the Water Bureau is proposing using reclaimed water to flush the toilet. This could save 21 million cubic meters of fresh water per year, which is equivalent to 2% of the water consumption in Hong Kong. For an area that is very practical, maintaining sufficient water supply is a lesson that Hong Kong could share with the rest of the world.